All right, welcome back. Episode 185 of Chaotically Intolerant. We're back with Mike this week. We're going to talk some football, maybe a little MLB awards, start the show. But make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's go. All right, Mike. So let's lead off the show with a little MLB awards. No MVP announced yet, but we do have Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year. I know you wanted to see Jackson Merrill win Rookie of the Year in the National League, but Paul Skeens takes it down. When you're with Livy Dunn, it's hard not to win the Rookie of the Year, right?
I thought Merrill's MVP kind of takes into consideration more of the clutch statistics and your value to the team maybe. And not that Skeens wasn't valuable to the Pirates, don't get me wrong, but obviously came up a little bit later in the year. And I just thought Merrill had so many big moments with the Padres that he maybe deserved at least for it to be a closer race than it was. And the American League was really tight. I was pulling for obviously Colton Cowser, one Oriole up against two Yankees, but I think Luis Gill probably deserved it as well. And to me, Pat Murphy was a no-brainer. First manager of the year in Brewers history. I know Craig Counsell came close.
I know Mets fans were not happy either. They thought Mendoza should have won that.
I mean, I think you could certainly make a strong argument for him the way the Mets turned things around, the way they were able to kind of overcome some of their weaknesses. But I think given all the moves that the Brewers made before the season that looked like they were waving the white flag for Murphy to get this team to produce the best bullpen in baseball when Devin Williams didn't even pitch before the All-Star break, I think you still got to hand it to Murphy. I have no problem with him winning. And Stephen Vogt, I mean, amazing because the American League Central produced all three finalists for the award, and I think all were very deserving candidates. But I like Vogt. He's a good guy. I think it was great to see that all three of those managers, even though it only factors in regular season, all of them each won a postseason series as well to prove, I think, take a little bit off of that. Well, it was a fluke. The Royals beat the Orioles, Tigers beat the Astros, which was a big deal, and the Guardians took out the Tigers. So, I was surprised that the voting was as heavily favored towards Vogt as it was, no pun intended, but not as much with Murphy.
I'm going to say something a little crazy. I feel like some people might not like what I have to say about that, but I feel like with Manager of the Year, I feel like that should factor in postseason at least a little bit. I think it's a little different than like players because if you're a good manager, even with a bad team, I feel like if you deserve to win Manager of the Year if you make the playoffs. I feel like at least making a playoff appearance should have some effect. Now, obviously, sometimes maybe a manager just pulls a team up that isn't really good and they barely miss the playoffs, so they should obviously still be considered. But I feel like a postseason appearance or something like that should factor in as well.
Well, I think what's interesting is we scrutinize managers a lot more in the postseason than we do in the regular season, and their bullpen management in particular, and playing the hunches, and that's when a manager gets second guessed a lot more. Not that they don't during the regular season, but it would be interesting to see a shift in that award. I want to throw out a crazy jinx or something, and Buck Showalter was talking about it on MLB Network. If I'm not mistaken, I think the previous three NL managers of the year are out of a job or not managing. Right, Gabe Kapler, 2021,
Yes.
he's not managing. Buck Showalter, who is on the show, so we know he's not managing, although he may be again. And Skip Schumacher. His contract was not renewed. So he was like, Showalter was joking, like, maybe this isn't an award you want to win if you're Pat Murphy. I mean, so who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, the Brewers tank and Murphy's out of a job.
But I think there should be like the playoffs should have like a 5% impact on a decision because obviously it is very important, but the same time, it's hard to judge someone based on, maybe they didn't make the playoffs, another team did. But I think about 5%. I think that's a good little number to consider. Like, okay, if it's a tie, then the manager that made the playoffs should, and theoretically be pushed over and made the winner. So, but I don't know. I mean, those awards, it's so hard. There's no numerical value you can, place like rookie of the year. How are you going to compare a pitcher and an outfielder or a shortstop or whatever? Anyways, the Mets also added Jose Siri from the Rays. There's some moves being made. The Juan Soto sweepstakes are starting to heat up a little bit. I know he met with the Red Sox, shockingly. The Red Sox are even considering spending that amount of money, but I guess they are. Maybe they heard a little bit of the calls. I'm not sure. But, the Mets adding Siri, I mean, I would say that's a nice little piece to add for the Mets. They hopefully want to make a push next year, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I mentally was freaking out a little bit when I heard Soto met with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Because that's like, wow. I mean, if that happens, you can almost just pack up your bags on the 2025 season. It's a done deal. But I would think that there's going to be some serious money thrown around by the Yankees, the Mets, maybe the Red Sox. I think that'd be a very interesting fit because the Red Sox look like a team that's they need one or two more big time players, and they would be ready to contend, certainly. But Soto talks about winning. See, the difference is Ohtani talking about winning. You can understand that because he never made the postseason in 6 years with the Angels. Soto's coming off being in the World Series. He's already gotten a ring in 2019 and get his first full year in the big leagues. So, yeah, I understand every player wanting to win, but needing to win as much. And look, if you go, let's say he ends up in Boston. Red Sox have won a World Series within the last 6-7 years, whatever. You become. I never understood. I think a guy like Soto doing the whole Kevin Durant thing versus kind of like, don't you want to be the guy that comes in and helps take the team from middle of the pack or even from out of the blue and becomes a part of that, as opposed to just, well, I'll just go to a team that's ready. It'll be, I don't want to say easy, but my chances are really high of winning a ring. And I just pray he doesn't end up with the Dodgers. That's all I'll say. Anywhere else, even if he stays with the Yankees, not ideal, but clearly they weren't just championship team last year without him. I think it'd be interesting to see him go to the Mets. I think the Mets could challenge the Dodgers if they bring Juan Soto into the fold. They need some bullpen help. But yeah, that's all I can say about the Soto sweepstakes. Please don't let him end up in LA.
Yeah, just keep him out of LA. Anywhere else, even I could care. If he went to the Yankees or went back to the Yankees, I'd be like, oh shit, that sucks. But no Dodgers, I'm perfectly fine. And then the Rays, their stadium woes. This is like perfectly Rays, right? Like the stadium is torn apart in a hurricane. They play at the Yankees spring training facility. Now they're saying the new stadium isn't going to be ready until 28, if at all. I'm hearing it might not even happen now.
Yeah.
Just crazy that the Rays can't figure this out.
Yeah, it's a very sad situation. It's funny. I heard they were meeting with Soto, and I'm thinking, what's he going to do? Donate part of his salary to the new stadium efforts? I mean, it's like, is he going to play on a team-friendly qualifying deal? I mean, that was the most humorous thing I heard because I think it was true. I think he did actually meet with them. I don't know, or supposedly. Yeah, very wild situation. The Rays are going to have to play outdoors in a minor league stadium. So you're going to have two American League teams next year who have long been kind of punchline playing in minor league stadiums, perhaps fittingly, given their approach to baseball. Actually, I was watching some of Moneyball last night. It was on. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I hope the Rays don't have to. I don't like seeing relocation of teams. I think that's just very unsettling.
It feels like they're like trying to gear up for Nashville. Like they're trying to. This would be like we're not going to have a stadium ready. Let's go to Nashville.
Yeah,
that's the perfect little setup for them. And it sucks. They're building this new stadium in St. Pete when they should be building it in Tampa. I don't understand why. I mean, I get there's probably some sort of governmental thing, some sort of bureaucracy issue with it, but just figure it the fuck out. I don't know what to tell you. Like, figure it the fuck out. in Tampa, and that would be a further drive for me, so it would be sucky for me as a baseball fan, but it makes the most sense. You're closer to Orlando. There's just more people in Tampa. It's a no-brainer to be in Tampa instead of St. Pete, but the Rays think they know best. That's why they haven't won a World Series ever.
Right.
Let's move to the NFL. It's another crazy week, another exciting week. We're at that point where we're starting to find some teams. See what teams are real, what teams aren't. I actually compiled a list of teams that I'm ready to fire into the sun that I don't want to hear anything about for the rest of the season. Let me pull that up in a second here. Okay, my first one. The Colts just took them down. The Jets. I don't ever want to hear from the Jets ever again. They're 3-8. Aaron Rodgers is horrible. Get the Jets out of my face. We're going to go east, which is somehow in Texas. The Dallas Cowboys. Get the fuck out. I don't want to hear from them. All I got is Cooper Rush. I mean, Cooper Rush is kind of fun. CD is kind of fun. But I don't want to hear anything else about it. Are we going to do the Tommy Cutlets thing again? Seriously? 2 years in a row? First time, haha, funny. We all laughed at him. Hilarious. This is a storied franchise that's won 4 Super Bowls. It's not the Jets. Okay? Just die out very easily. Go out quietly. Go darkly into that good night, or whatever the saying is. Carolina Panthers. Hey, they have a 2-game win streak, but still don't care. I don't want to hear from them ever again. Raiders, get him out of here. Gardner Minshew, I thought he'd be fun in silver and black, but he's not. The Jags, they should be like boycotting the games that Doug Peterson is not fired. He should be fired. He should be gone at this point. The Titans, don't want to hear from them anymore. Levis or Rudolph, I don't really care. They're bad. Few teams that I'm looking at, but I'm not ready to ship off yet. Not ready to put into that spaceship that goes to the sun. New England, they're not good, but Drake May is fun to watch. He's a good offensive piece and fun to watch possible future quarterback develop. The Browns, if Jameis is on the field, it's still must-watch TV. I don't care. He threw for like 300-something yards in a game they scored 14 points. How the hell does that happen?
Right.
Since he has a good offense, even though the record is not good, they probably seem the most primed to run the table and maybe make a playoff appearance. And then New Orleans, as long as you got Darren Rizzi, the Rizzler, on the sideline, I'll keep watching because it's actually kind of fun. Let's go into the games, though. Eagles, Commanders, 26-18. Are the Eagles back? Are they actually back?
Did they ever leave? I mean, other than that stretch last year, I think they're back. Yeah, I think also the Commanders kind of got outclassed a little bit. I think this was one of those moments where they had a chance, and they were up 10-3 in this game, and then gave up 23 unanswered before a late TD at the end. I thought the Eagles' defense was impressive. I felt like they really Daniels didn't look right. I don't know if dealing with injuries. I don't know if it just the spotlight was too bright in this game. His receivers didn't help him out really at all. I mean, Austin Eckler was the guy he counted on the most, 8 for 89. And Ertz, but the receivers, I mean, they didn't get the ball to any receivers. Like John Bates, you're talking about 2 catches for a tight end there. So they didn't have a single receiver that caught more than 1 pass. So I found that very interesting, whether that was just poor play calling, whether that was the inability, of Daniels to get the ball down the field, or just really good Eagles defense. I think that's what stands out to me with Philly, is that they run the ball now and they play really good defense. That is, last I checked, a really good formula for success in the NFL.
Yeah, I thought Jaden Daniels looked like a rookie. I think that's what we can chalk it up to, is that he's a rookie, and we forgot. Like, some people forgot he's a rookie. And the Eagles, again, like, they started 2-2 and they looked horrible, and a lot of their wins have not been convincing, but they've won them, and then they're 8-2 now. Like, this one was a little bit more of a convincing win. I think they've had a couple of more convincing wins, but a lot of them have been very close, closer than they should be. But listen, they're coming out on the right side this time, and that's different than last year's 2-8 stretch in the last 10 games, or whatever their record was. So I guess they're back. I guess Sirianni saved his job again. I mean, with this roster, like it's one of the best rosters in the NFL. They should have been like it shouldn't have been a question. These games should have been won without question. So I guess if Eagles fans still want to fire Sirianni, you can say that the games are too close. But on to the Sunday games: Packers Bears. Packers, they do it again. Same old Bears, right? It's just the same old Bears.
Yeah. That's a very Bears against the Packers way to lose for Chicago. I know they felt like the defensive lineman lined up over the center, and they were going to send that in. That's a crying over spilt milk kind of thing that Chicago would do. Green Bay's been kind of low key all year. I mean, they're 7-3, 4-1 on the road. They're like in third place in the North, and so it kind of keeps them out of the limelight. And Love's numbers were good. I mean, he didn't have to throw much. He was 17 passes. He was sacked once. So it's a little bit, but Christian Watson with the big play, like that's got to be a relief for Packers fans. I thought the Bears showed some more life offensively, with the new coordinator, and they ran it really well. Like it feels like there's still time for them to figure out how to break out.
Yeah.
Offensively. It's just, the frustration. We know they haven't been the same since that Hail Mary. They've lost now, I think 4 straight. Kind of have their season on the line this week against Minnesota.
Sorry, I'm just looking. Yeah, lost 4 straight. Wow. Yeah, they started 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
Things feel very different in Chicago. I don't. I mean, people are turning this into something that it's not. They're saying it's Caleb Williams being a bust. Like, come on,
No.
He's a rookie, and their offensive line is horrible. He's going to struggle. They haven't won a road game, which is crazy. They're 0-4 on the road. That's pretty crazy to me. 4-2 at home. So
they put up almost 400 yards of total offense, more first downs and more yardage. They really dominated time of possession, almost 36 and a half minutes. So there were a lot of positive signs for the Bears offensively in this game. But they're going to need to play as good or even better against a really good Minnesota defense coming in.
Yeah. Lions, Jaguars. What's funny? I think there was a poll done by The Athletic last year when the Jaguars and Lions were both really, really good teams. And they said, who would you rather be, the Jaguars or the Lions? And I think the Jaguars won that poll, saying more people would rather be the Jaguars. And pretty much ever since that poll, the Jaguars have won like 2 games in, 2 out of like 15 or something. They have just been on this, unbelievable downward spiral. They did have a lead in this game, though. They were up 3-0.
They were, yeah.
At one point.
Yeah, Mac Jones was going to lead the big upset. I pointed that last game that Detroit played against Houston. It reminded me a lot of the "You're too young for this," but the Bears are who we thought they were game back in 2006, and that was a magical season where the Bears played as horribly as they could. Rex Grossman was awful, but they scored all their points on like returns, defensively and special teams.
I've heard about this.
They had a bye the next week, came back and just hammered a bad team, 49ers. And I felt like because Detroit almost played as bad as they could, Goff played as bad as he could, and they still won against a pretty solid Houston team, pretty good Houston team. Yeah. There was no way they weren't going to rip the Jags to shreds. But I don't think anyone could have anticipated 38-10 in first downs, 645 to 170 in offense, 39 minutes to 21 in time of possession. I mean, this was like varsity against JV. I mean, this was, and as you said, after being down 3-0, Goff, you talk about, coaches talk all the time about bouncing back, resilience, and they didn't even lose the game, but it almost felt like in a lot of ways the Lions should have lost that game to Houston. They come back with a gargantuan effort, and I don't know if it's as much about how good the Lions are, how bad the Jaguars are, a combination of both. Peterson needs to go. I like him. He's always going to be a hero in Philadelphia. They had played better the last few weeks. They had close losses to Green Bay and Philadelphia, and it looked like at least they were fighting. This looked like a complete give-up game for Jacksonville.
This was they absolutely quit. Completely, 100%, no doubt. There's this acquit. I don't. I mean, they're 2-9. Like, I don't think anyone expected them to be this bad, right? I think even in our wildest dreams of how bad are the Jaguars going to be, it was like, oh, they'll win 7 games probably if they're going to be that bad. They'll be 7-10. Like, this is they. I think, do they hold the number one pick right now? They definitely hold a top 5. I don't think they hold the number one pick yet. But just this is like a complete and utter disaster. And on the Detroit side, like, I love it. I love when teams don't take their foot off the gas. I love it when teams just keep pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring, because you know what? You never know, you never fucking know. And if you're gonna complain, I can't stand people complaining about running up the score. Just stop them. Like, they put in Hendon Hooker. I wonder what I'm gonna look at the. Did he record a touchdown at all? Let's see. Because if you can't stop like Hendon Hooker from scoring, that's just a you problem. I don't know what else you could say. Yeah, they kicked a field goal. Um, yeah, Hooker or Goff left with about 10 minutes left in the fourth, and Hendon Hooker came in and drove him down and kicked a field goal. Wasn't a very long drive. It was like a 23-yard drive, but yeah, I love it. I love it when teams do that. I think it keeps them warm. I think a lot of teams in the past would just sit on the lead and kind of let Jacksonville climb back into it, but that's not the Dan Campbell way whatsoever. So again, and this is a game that the Lions just should have won. Like, you're expected to win this one. And then they have a big game against the Colts next week. Very excited for that one. Vikings, Titans. Sam Darnold, not so much a pumpkin, kind of going back and forth. He's kind of in between the Cinderella and pumpkin phase, or whatever the hell, whatever the story is. But I just don't want to hear from the Titans anymore. They're just no fun.
I mean, yeah, they played okay against the Chargers. They played okay. They're not embarrassing themselves in the way that Jacksonville did, and the way that some of these bad teams did. It just, Levis actually put up decent numbers. They just couldn't run the ball. I mean, they're got 9 for 15 from Pollard, 3 carries for 0 yards from Spears. They just lack talent. To me, I don't know that it's fair to pin it on Brian Callahan. And then the Vikings, everybody was kind of like, oh, they're 2-game losing streak. They're going to be done. They're frauds. They've come back and beaten teams that they're supposed to beat, which, again, like, you can't fault them for their schedule. They're 8-2. They got Chicago this week, winnable game. So this is an interesting 3-game road trip. It's a tough thing to do, to win all 3 of those for Minnesota, but Minnesota's just fundamentally sound, and Tennessee's just not talented. That's how I look at this game as. It wasn't, again, not an embarrassing performance by the Titans, just an outclassing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really nothing you can learn besides that. I think even in my recap video I did, it was like, yeah, the Vikings beat the Titans because they were supposed to. That's all. Raiders, Dolphins, Tua, suddenly the Dolphins are in this thing. They are a game and a half back of the Broncos for the 7th seed. We thought their season was over just a few weeks ago, and I mean, I still say Tua is worth his contract. Look at the offense with and without him. It's clear. There's a clear difference, and you can say what you want about injuries, but even if Tyreek goes down, their offense is still competent. 288, 3 touchdowns, and again, this was just a game the Dolphins had to win. You can't lose this game to the Raiders, and they did it convincingly.
Yeah, the Dolphins, you kind of felt like they kind of hit as low a point as they were going to hit, but put up 34 against a pretty bad football team. Tua's numbers really good again. Very quietly, the Dolphins trying to do what they did in 2021 under Flores, when they had that really strong finish. They're not going to win the division, obviously. It's all but a formality for Buffalo to clinch at this point. But the wild card race is pretty open at this point, and we know the Dolphins can score a lot of points. They have the ability. Now, their schedule is, it's not.
They have a lot of winnable games. Those are a lot of coin flips.
New England, but then they're at the Packers on Thanksgiving, but then they got the Jets. Then they have Houston and San Francisco, which is tricky, but they finish with the Browns and the Jets. So can they get to? I mean, to get to 9 wins is even going to be hard. To go 5-2 the rest of the way, I think that's what they're going to have to do to even have a chance to make the playoffs.
Mhm.
It's doable. I just don't see them getting there.
And we all know about the Dolphins freezing in the Colt too.
Yeah.
They struggle down the stretch. So we could see them do something that they rarely ever do, have never done. I can't really remember a time besides that 21 season where they kind of went on a late run and succeeded. Um, but I mean, I look at their schedule, like all of these, they're either bad teams, Jets and Patriots, or teams you don't know what you're expecting from them. You never know what to expect. You don't know what to expect from the Texans on a week to week basis. You don't know what to expect from the 49ers on a week to week basis. You don't know what to expect from the Packers on a week to week basis. These teams have been schizophrenic at times, and it's a perfect spot for Miami. I think they can at least make it interesting, at least make some teams sweat because they're sitting right behind the Colts. I'm sweating about the Dolphins right now. Very, very much. Super Bowl rematch, Rams Patriots. Who would have thought it would look like this? But Stafford threw 4 touchdowns, just very quietly threw 4 touchdowns. It feel like it. I felt like I saw no coverage of this game. But yeah, and the Patriots are just not very good.
Yeah, I thought this was a game where the Rams could trip up, and that if that were to have happened, their season would have really been in jeopardy. So they kind of stave off the end, and they're 5-5 at this point. You're right; it felt like a very quiet 4 touchdown game for Stafford. I think Drake May's still showing a lot of promise. Again, this was kind of like with the Titans, where it wasn't that the Patriots embarrassed themselves, just an outclassing. I think they've fought hard. They haven't rolled over really for Gerard Mayo. I know he called them soft earlier this year. I think they just need to accumulate more talent. And the Rams, I don't know if they have enough juice to really make a run, but they've got a veteran quarterback who's won. He's still good. He's got 2 really dynamic receivers, pretty good running back. So the elements are there. But do you really see the Rams making like a real playoff push this year?
Can't see it. Cleveland, New Orleans. It was a fun game. It was the Jameis Bowl. Jameis threw for 395. He actually didn't throw an interception in this game and still lost. That is a perfect Jameis stat line. Derek Carr, perfectly efficient, 21 for 27, 248. Taysom Hill, it was the Taysom Hill game. I think this is like everyone's going to remember this game for him. 136 on the ground, 50 in the air, well, receiving at least, and 18 passing, 1 for 2. 100 QBR, good for him. But yeah, Cleveland is dead in the water. I think after that first Jameis game when they beat the Ravens, you thought, okay, they might be able to go on this run again, and they're just not a good team.
Yeah, by the way, Taysom Hill, 3 rushing touchdowns, 8 receptions, but also threw an interception. I'm sure we'll never see that again in NFL history. Maybe. Yeah, the Saints playing better with the Riz, but this was the peak like 2019 Jameis. Incredible numbers, sometimes incredible on the other side. And yet the team loses, finds a way to lose. The Browns are toast. Is Stefanski toast? I think I think they need to beat the Steelers. If they lose, they go to 2-9. Their schedule is very unforgiving. I don't know if Stefanski survives after this season, but
this game was tied actually in the fourth
yeah.
quarter, going into the fourth,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was a 21 just like that. So yeah, not good. Jerry Jeudy had a day. Congrats to Jerry Jeudy.
He did. Yeah, he had an 89-yard touchdown.
I didn't think I would hear from him ever again.
Yeah.
So good for him. Colts and Jets. Listen, Anthony Richardson looked good. I think that time on the bench did him pretty well. I would have hoped he would have come back against maybe the Patriots, but I think he passed the test. I would say he was 20 for 30, 272. He was definitely more accurate. You could see him hitting his shots a little more. I think there's some of those nerves are shaken off, a little Jackson Holiday situation. But again, it's one game. We got Detroit next week. And the Jets, dude, the Jets are just so laughably bad. They just fired Joe Douglas, another another pawn in Aaron Rodgers' game. I don't know why he's even there at this point. He should just say, fuck it, just bench me. Um, but everyone to blame but Aaron, right?
Yeah, exactly. This Jets team is it was sad and or hilarious depending on how you look at it.
Hilarious. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, talking about over 30 pass attempts and under 200 yards for Aaron Rodgers, I think the end is near for him. I think it was big for Richardson to have a strong performance and that he has a comeback win in his first game back. Colts are still in it, and nobody's really talking about it because we're talking about the Dolphins being in it. Well, the Colts, no reason they're not in. Of course, they have a big test coming up this week, but they do play in the AFC South. I think around that, their schedule has got to be pretty forgiving, right? They've got New England, Denver, Tennessee, the Giants, Jacksonville. Like, they've got the schedule to maybe make a run, even if they don't beat the Lions. Be interesting to see, and if Richardson continues to develop, Colts have some energy. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll do a little look ahead because we're sitting at 5-6. We're a game back of Denver. Yeah, one game. We're two. No, one game back of Denver. So we're right there. We do have the Broncos as well in Denver in a few weeks. Lions, I'm gonna say that's a loss. Patriots, I think you can win that one. Denver, I think you can win that one too. My dad does not think we're as good as Denver. I think we're a little closer than that. The Titans, I think that's a very winnable game. The Giants, very winnable. And the Jaguars at home is winnable, very winnable. So, I mean, you could be looking at a Colts team that's 10-7, maybe 9-8 again. But they got to pick up that win against Denver. That's the biggest game of the year. At this point in the season. I really wish we could have took that Vikings game though. God damn it, that was a tough one to lose a few weeks ago. But Jonathan Taylor got 24 carries. That's the other good thing. We actually used him, even though he only had 57 yards. I still like to see them abuse the running game and really use the ground game more than the passing game because he just doesn't have it yet. I know he went 20 for 30, but consistently he still just doesn't have that accuracy that you need from a real quarterback. So it should be a run first team. So I just hope it's run first with Jonathan Taylor. I hope they use the element of Anthony Richardson being on the field as a scare tactic. But who knows? Ravens Steelers. This was a crazy, weird, gross AFC North game.
It was, and another piece of evidence that the Ravens can't win close games, can't get out of their own way. I was really forecasting how the game was going to go. When it was like 15-10, I'm like, all right, Steelers are going to get a field goal because they haven't scored a touchdown all day. The Ravens will go down. They'll make it look easy to get a touchdown, and then they'll botch the 2-point conversion, which they did. When Pittsburgh called the timeout, and then they didn't give the ball to Derrick Henry, which felt very Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl-esque. That they decided not to go onside kick. They kicked it deep. I said, well, you watch. They'll stop them on first and second down. They'll make sure to give up the first down on third down, which they did. I knew that the play was going to be an inside run. I guess the Ravens didn't. They got the first down. The Ravens had so many, not just penalties, but bad, poorly timed penalties. If there's, maybe there's no such thing as an unpoorly timed penalty, but 12 for 80 yards. They had an eligible man downfield that, stalled the drive a little bit longer, which, maybe with extra time, who knows? It seems like in every loss they've beaten themselves somehow. And maybe not the Chiefs lost as much. I know they didn't get the foot in at the end, but it's so frustrating because that the talent is there. This isn't like a team that's kind of on the edge and then they're beating themselves. I mean, this is a really, if the Ravens played competent football and figured out how to win close games, I have no doubt they'd be far and away, maybe not far and away, but the best team in the AFC. But they're not. Right now, they're a game and a half behind Pittsburgh for first place in the AFC North. They do play them again. But it just, and for Pittsburgh, this is what they've figured out a way to do: win close, low-scoring games. They made the clutch plays. The Ravens didn't. That's the difference, really, in the records right now. Why the Steelers have found a way to go 8-2, and the Ravens have, I think, underperformed at 7-4. And the Ravens' schedule It's not easy. They're at the Chargers. They've got the Eagles coming in. Then after a bye, they've got the Giants. But then they've got Pittsburgh again. They're at Houston, and then they finish with Cleveland. But who beat them, by the way? Right? They've already lost to Cleveland, so that's not a gimme. It's just I don't know. My hope now, I'll say this, is that maybe the Ravens take that road that we've seen some teams take in across all sports, where maybe as an underdog, maybe if they go in as a wild card team that no one's expecting to hear from, that serves them better than being the one seed, which they've never won as a one seed. They've always fallen short or off a bye, I should say. Like lost to the Colts in 06, lost to the Titans in 19, lost to the Chiefs last year. So I don't know. I don't know where the Ravens stand after this game. I think if they have a good bounce back in the Harbaugh this week, we'll start feeling a little better. If they lose that and they go to 7-5, suddenly they're almost assuredly looking at a wild card berth and having to win 3 games on the road, which Lamar's only won 1 road playoff game in his career. So this was frustrating. What do you make of the Steelers? I mean, how for real are they at 8-2?
I still don't believe in them yet. I mean, they're not a bad team. I don't want to get that twisted. They're not a bad team whatsoever. Are they a Super Bowl contender? No. They have a tough stretch. So they got to see the Browns, Bengals, and then the Browns again in the next 3 weeks. And then they got Philly, they got Baltimore, and they got Kansas City. And then Cincy again to end the year. I think you got to take. I mean, at this point, I know the Bengals are a lot better than their record says. They're still a 4-7 team. That you got to win those games. Those are games you have to win as a playoff team. I need to see them sweep the division games, and the Bengals and Browns, and then take one of the 3 versus Philly, Baltimore, and Kansas City. But and I'll believe that they're real, because I mean, we saw Russ a couple years ago. He was better last year, a lot, I think, than this. What everyone was saying. The stats will tell you otherwise. But I still want to see them go out and beat some really good teams, because you look at their schedule. Where is it? Okay. Before the Ravens and Commanders, I mean, they were seeing the Jets, the Giants, the Raiders, the Cowboys, who are not good, the Colts, who are not very good, the Chargers, who were okay, but remember that was a game Justin Herbert hurt his ankle. The Broncos, who were a big question mark at the time, they weren't exactly. I don't think they hit a stride. And the Falcons, who was their first game with Kirk Cousins, week 1, you never know anything about anybody. So are they real? Not yet. They got some work to do. I really want to see them take at least one of those 3 games between the Ravens, Chiefs, and Eagles, and they got to be competitive in all.
Right. And we know that the Steelers are not going to be like 14-3. They're probably more 11, 12 wins maybe, but they just don't score enough points generally. I mean, this game had less than 400 combined yards of offense, 34 first downs total. I mean, the Ravens were held to just, I take that back. I'm sorry. I was looking at passing. But only 34 first downs combined. The Ravens, for them, it's low to get 329 yards. They did what they had to do for the most part defensively. I mean, if you told me that the Ravens were going to hold the Steelers out of the end zone, I'd have said, sure, they're definitely going to win the game. But they just don't score 20 or more against the Steelers. I think that's 8 straight games that they haven't scored over 20 points against Pittsburgh. So maybe they just have to hope they avoid them in the postseason.
If you asked me for the definition of an AFC North game, I would show this game. I would show this. This is like the definition of an AFC North regular season game. Just like mid-November, I remember it looked a little gross out there. It looked cold. And obviously the Steelers not scoring a touchdown, that just makes sense. Just hard-nosed football. And that interception at the end, that was like a very AFC North interception, just ripping it away from the guy. No need to jump in front of the pass. Just wait till he grabs it and take it from him. Falcons, Broncos. I guess Falcons don't do well at high elevation. Broncos are 6-5. Falcons are 6-5. The Broncos are good. Are they like a good football team?
I think they are. I think they've been improving a lot since that 0-2 start. I think a combination of a ticked off Denver team that felt like it should have won against the Chiefs and a really slumping Falcons team right now. They didn't run it. Kirk Cousins was under pressure a lot. They didn't get in the end zone. I mean, this Denver defense is really good, has the potential to be really good. And at 6-5, with a good head coach and a generally not just the mistake free rookie quarterback. And Bo Nix put up, like Peyton Manning esque numbers on Sunday. 28 for
Yeah.
33 for 307 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, he's figuring it out. And Sean Payton knows how to work with quarterbacks, whether they're young or old. And I do think this Denver team's for real. I think they felt like they should have had that game against Kansas City. Yeah, they had a clunker against the Ravens, um, but yeah, I mean they've. It looks like Peyton. He's the kind of coach when he's had some time to work with a team, he's really going to leave his mark.
Yeah. And the Falcons, I mean, I think this was one of their schizophrenic games. Like you don't really know what you're going to get out of them. They sit, what is that, a game and a half? Yeah, about a game and a half ahead of Tampa in the South. Um, Although they do hold the tiebreaker, so 2.5. Um, yeah, I mean, they this is like they are Kirk Cousins. That's the best way to describe them. They are Kirk Cousins, where you're going to get you're going to get clunkers, and we've gotten clunkers out of this team. A few weeks, I think, in the past, yeah, against the Saints, you lose against the Saints in the Rizzy game. Seattle, you get bull rushed, and you lost or in week 1 to the Steelers 18-10, where you looked awful. I just don't think it feels like every time they have an opportunity to reach their potential, they don't. They kind of falter. They had those two. They took one against the Bucks in Tampa, and then they beat Dallas, and it was like, okay, here's a time where you can start to go on this run. But now you got the Chargers and Vikings up next. Another couple of tests. Denver was a test. Let's see if they can pass against the Chargers. But Denver, we just wanted them to win one of those 3 games, right? They had a 3-game stretch of Falcons, Chiefs, and Ravens. We thought, okay, to survive this, you probably should win at least one of them, and they picked up one on the final one. So I think they definitely passed the test this week.
Yeah, they did. They did, and they have obviously that experience of having played the Chiefs. Now they've got Raiders, Browns, Colts, Chargers, Bengals leading up to that Chiefs finale. And who knows, maybe the Chiefs aren't playing for anything that week. They've got a favorable schedule as well, and I think they're not going to win the division, but I'd give them a very high probability of getting a wild card berth.
Mm-hmm. All right. Seahawks 49ers. Gino does it himself, takes it in at the end. The 49ers, Bobby was right. Bobby was very right about the 49ers. They don't look right. They don't look like the 49ers that we know. And Seattle, I mean, this NFC West is just crazy. Nobody wants to win it.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, Arizona's the favorite. You wouldn't have thought that going into the year that before Thanksgiving they'd be favored. It just feels like, if nothing else, this is just one of those years where it's just not meant to be for the 49ers, between injuries, between some of the games they've had. They always beat the Seahawks. I mean, this was one they had to have, and they didn't. And they're still in it because of the division. It just, I don't know, just doesn't feel like they're supposed to win. I hate to use that as like an argument, but Purdy throwing for only 159, the defense being able to unable to hold the lead at the end. And hats off to Geno Smith. I mean, I think this was the Seahawks' first division win of the year, and they've got a big one at home against Arizona. If they beat Arizona this week, they'll be in first place. And we were kind of like, oh, the Seahawks
Yes.
were 3-0, and then they went 1-5. And now maybe they're turning it around again. We've seen that a lot where teams, they look great and then they don't look great. And then inevitably they have to look great again. And this could be the time where Seattle's on the upswing, and they've got a chance to take this momentum and run with it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's sitting at 5-5 except for Arizona at 6-4.
Yeah.
That was Seattle's first divisional win of the year. They've played 3 division games so far, and they see Arizona 2 of the next 3 weeks. They see them this week. then the Jets, then Arizona again. So this is this won't decide the division, but it's going to be, if we're going to look back and probably say the winner of the division won, I think won that series. Um, I still don't trust the Cardinals. I still can't trust them. It's that logo. I just
Yeah.
they're just not trustworthy to me.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers also complaining. I don't think we talked about this when they played the Cardinals and the Cardinals just kicked the shit out of him. He complained about the humidity. Just hilarious. Like, dude, come on. It's Arizona in November. Like, are you fucking serious? Come on. Don't or the Heat, one or the other. I don't know. Game of the week. Was it the game of the week? I think it was probably the game of the week. Chiefs Bills. Definitely not the best game, but the most anticipated game. Allen sealed it with a big touchdown rush at the end. But you just kind of felt like Kansas City was going to figure out how to do it at the end, right? They're driving down the field. Mahomes ran for 18. You're like, okay, they're going to do it. They're going to do this thing. They're going to make Buffalo sick to their stomach again. But alas, the 72 Dolphins can pop that champagne. Still the only undefeated team.
Yeah, I think we had differing opinions on this. Normally, I would have said, "Oh, this is the Chiefs will find a way to break Buffalo's heart." Buffalo's beaten them now 4 straight years in the regular season. So this, if anything, it's like Buffalo's found a way to break Kansas City's heart in the regular season. They've had a couple of bizarre finishes or really tight endings. Last year, the Kadarius Toney offsides play, gutsy call by McDermott. We don't say that a lot, but to go for it on fourth down there, I like the thinking that if they kick the field goal, they go up five. Mahomes can still drive them down the field and win the game. If they don't get it, Mahomes has to just go down and get a field goal. So, but I think a couple takeaways here. This was a game that it just felt like Kansas City had to lose. They've been winning too many close games. They ran into a buzzsaw team that was geared up. They're treating this like their Super Bowl or one of their Super Bowls maybe, and a team that has actually owned the Chiefs between the months of September and December. The other side is, look, Kansas City's still waiting to get back Isaiah Pacheco, which I think is big. They'll get back Charles Omenihu, which will help their pass rush. They actually have not been great in terms of sacks, lower numbers in terms of sacks. You could see in this game, it kind of was a microcosm of the Chiefs season where Mahomes didn't play great. The offense was hit or miss. The defense was good. They just still made the clutch plays. They had that New England-esque aura that is going to continually keep them in the game. But in the end, Buffalo just had too much. And I don't know if we can continue to ignore the fact that Patrick Mahomes has, not just by his standards, it's a horrible year, but even by any standards, has just not had a great year. He's thrown an interception in all but 2 games this year. He's had 3 multi-pick games. They're not always all on him. They had the one at the end, but he really forced that early throw. And I thought that kind of set the tone for the game. He had an overthrow. Bills got it. They got a touchdown, and it just kind of set the tone a little bit for the game. So I don't want to overreact to one game, but I do think that some of the talk about the Chiefs maybe not being as good as their record and maybe being a little lucky, it's hard to ignore that. Let's see how they bounce back against 2 really bad football teams. They've got Carolina and the Raiders coming up on a short week on Black Friday. Before they get into another tough part of their schedule, they'll have, I think, Chargers, Texans, and Steelers over a 4-game stretch with Cleveland in between. So I don't know, but I wrote this article. I wrote this article that this may serve the Chiefs well. Losing this game, having to play these games now. Had they won this game, 1 seed is all but a formality at this point.
Yeah.
So now they gotta buckle those chin straps and play some meaningful football.
Yeah. I do agree with you as well. I think a lot of football fans would agree that this probably was better for the Chiefs. It takes a little bit of the pressure off. We know, what was it in 2009? The Colts sat everyone going into go in the final couple of weeks instead of going undefeated. They lost in the Super Bowl. New England went undefeated, had all the pressure, lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl. And Kansas City, I think we've seen this. Is this like the second time Buffalo's taken them down from being undefeated? I want to say it is. And it's, I'm curious.
No, no, they were not undefeated in 2022. They lost to the Colts, actually, earlier that year.
That year I said if they lost to the Colts, they were going to win
Yes.
the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was their first home loss in 2022. I think it was actually their only home loss of 2022 for the Colts.
No, that was in Indianapolis.
No. I was talking about the Bills when they won in Kansas City.
Oh.
That was the Chiefs' only home loss. So, another interesting weird stat, and it's not the first time it's happened in his career, but Patrick Mahomes did not have a rushing attempt in this game. Of course, a lot of times it's him just kneeling down is a rushing attempt for him, but he didn't scramble. They didn't give him an opportunity to make plays with his legs. And I find that to be a bigger deal because, we know what Mahomes can do running the football. Always seems like he picks his spots, knows when to get a first down. But I thought the Bills did a great job. They got a lot of pressure on him too. And that highlights another area of Kansas City's team that has come into question this year, which is the offensive line. The tackle position in particular has been a big question mark, with Jawan Taylor and his almost false starts on every play. It's been a revolving door a little bit, not a revolving door, but Wanya Morris has not played great at left tackle. And then they benched that guy. I can't pronounce his name. Long name, Hawaiian name, Suamatia. I don't know if I.
Oh, yeah.
So there are definitely some legitimate questions about the Chiefs coming out of this game. This is not to say that the Chiefs are frauds. This is not to say that they can't still go on a run and three-peat. It's just a little harder to ignore this stuff after this game. And it wasn't a blowout, but it felt like Buffalo never really relinquished
Lost control.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this it's not. I don't think Chiefs haters should be celebrating this.
Not
as
just
much.
yet. Not just yet.
Don't celebrate it yet.
They lose to Carolina, maybe we start talking about it.
Well, Bryce Young, he's just itching at the opportunity to take down the Chiefs.
Right.
He is on a 2-game win streak coming out of the bye.
Yeah.
Perfect opportunity. Bengals Chargers. Clearly bungling is stronger than chargering because both teams did it. Just what a crazy game. I was watching the game on my computer in my bedroom, and my dad was watching a movie out there, and he would just hear me going, oh my God, he missed. Just a crazy back and forth, can't believe all this shit is happening. And the Chargers come away. I mean, the Bengals, it looked like they realized that their season was on the line for about 15 minutes of game time, maybe 20 minutes of game time. And then it just went all the way back. And the Bengals are just wasting a career year from Joe Burrow. And he's had some really good years, and he's really, really good this year.
Yeah, again, I think another game where it was really a microcosm of both teams' seasons. So the Chargers kind of figuring out a way to not Charger it. Bengals figuring out a way, despite eye-popping numbers, to bungle it. The Chargers almost chargered, 21-point lead, gone. It was a game in which Justin Herbert was the team's leading rusher with 13 yards a carry. He completed less than half of his pass attempts. It was a game where both teams sort of messed up in their fourth quarter drives late in the game, and then the Bengals giving it back to the Chargers with enough time was the difference. The Chargers are showing a scrappiness that we haven't seen from them. They obviously have a very good defense. It was the first time they gave up more than 17 in a game. Now, stands to reason playing a really strong offense. And the Bengals, they'll get another big test in the Har Bowl against the Ravens next Monday night. But this may be the end for the Bengals. I mean, I don't think they're going to run the table, which means is 9-8 good enough to get them in if they can even pull that off? Maybe. It feels like this was, the Bengals defense again letting them down. And that's got to be just a gut punch for Joe Burrow. He's had a great year coming back off the injuries. I mean, the schedule is pretty forgiving. They have 2 games against the Steelers. They also have Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, and Denver. But again, is 9-8, is even 9-8 going to be enough to get them in? You figure the Chargers are going to get one of those wild cards. We mentioned Denver has a soft schedule, and you figure the loser of the division between Baltimore and Pittsburgh is definitely going to get it. And Baltimore's already swept Cincinnati. We'll see how the matchups between Pittsburgh and Cincy go. I think it's just like with the 49ers. It just isn't meant to be this year for the Bengals.
From our stat department at Chaotically Intolerant, Joe Burrow is 1-5 when he throws for 250 or more pass yards.
This year or in his
This
career?
year,
Yeah.
he's 1-5. They are not good. Not good when Joe was playing well. Maybe he should just play bad.
Well, maybe Mahomes can, be a good use case because we've said he hasn't had a great year and the Chiefs are 9-1. So, yeah, and it's not like the Bengals couldn't run it. I mean, Chase Brown had 4 yards a carry. Burrow had 2 for 28. I mean, again, it's kind of like that antithesis of the Chiefs where we talk about maybe the numbers aren't great, but the clutch, the winning the big moments. The Bengals defense seemingly this year has failed to win almost every big moment that they've needed to deliver on. I mean, that's the difference between at least one or two wins right now and just that feeling that they're not going to get it done when they need to.
If they lose to the Steelers this week, is Zach Taylor just gone? I feel like he's gone because that's your season right there.
I wouldn't be so concerned about the performance. It seems like players are frustrated with him. Jamar Chase sort of making some subtle jabs at him, about maybe the play calling or the attitude of the team. That would be more my concern about why he could get let go. I think if the Bengals make a late season push, even losing this game, I think you reconsider. But if they kind of tank and end up with like 6 or 7 wins, I do think he could be gone.
Honestly, I don't know how he's lasted this long. People could say, if you just think about how far they've fallen since the Burrowhead moment, since they beat Kansas City in the AFC Championship, you lose the Super Bowl to the Rams, and they really haven't been the same. Like they beat Buffalo in that playoff game, right, in Buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
and that was kind of the last good moment you can remember of them.
Yeah, they get your refunds game. Well,
Yeah.
again, they look. He makes the Super Bowl and then he makes the conference championship game. And you got to remember, I'll counter a little bit by saying the Bengals still won 9 games last year, where Joe Burrow missed the last 7, and they really made a push with Jake Browning. They lost the game late in the year to the Chiefs, got hammered by the Steelers. That was really it. I mean, so I do think he's built up enough goodwill to probably get one more year. Again, the bar has not been set very high for the Bengals franchise coaches. I mean, Marvin Lewis, look, they clearly don't love getting rid of coaches because he lasted forever and didn't win a single
Yeah,
postseason
I
game
don't know how he
in
did.
15, I think 15 or 16 seasons. I can't remember. So I think Taylor gets, unless something goes horribly wrong, I think he gets another year to turn this thing around.
All right, and Texans Cowboys. The roof is
The roof,
falling. The
the roof is,
bottom has fallen out.
yeah.
The players can't see because of the sun, and Jerry thinks that curtains are structurally, important or something. Like the structural integrity of the stadium will be affected if they put in curtains. So just it's awful in Dallas, and it's so fun.
Yeah, curtains is an appropriate word as the curtains have closed on this 2024 Cowboy season. Hey, I'm just glad that the roof didn't fall during the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. That could have been a lot more dangerous. It thankfully fell before the game and no one got hurt. Yeah, it was the play or the sequence that summed it up for me was Mike McCarthy not only taking points off the board, taking a 64-yard field goal, the third longest in NFL history, off the
Yep.
board from his kicker. Okay, not only taking away history potential, well, almost history, but took the points off the board in a 10-point game. They get down closer, gets to 4th and 2. You figure, all right, well, okay, just
Kick
take the
them
points
now.
again. They didn't do it. They didn't score anything. It was only 20-10 at that point. And then, of course, Houston, who didn't even play that well. They got a defensive touchdown. Stroud, his numbers were pretty modest. Mixon got some yards there at the end, and he had 3 touchdowns. But this wasn't like, oh man, the Texans really just stomped on a bad team. And to me, the Texans didn't do anything to instill that much more confidence in them as a true, Super Bowl contender. I felt like this was just the Cowboys being the 2024 Cowboys with a backup quarterback, with bonehead coaching decisions. This was just kind of almost like a bare minimum effort from Houston. And again, the Texans have the luxury of being in a very weak division. They've got Tennessee Jacksonville, Miami coming up before they play the Chiefs and Ravens, and then they finish with Tennessee. So it's like, I don't know, unless the Texans look really good in those two big games they have against Kansas City and Baltimore, I'm not buying them anymore as, a team that can be right up there with Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, maybe even Pittsburgh. I just don't know if I see it.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy hates field goals. Remember earlier in the year, he trotted Brandon Aubrey out at halftime to like right before half to try a 72-yard field goal, something like that, and then pulled him off the field. It was like, dude, what the fuck does it matter? Just kick it. Instead, I think they either kneeled it out or they threw a Hail Mary. It's like, from 70, no, give us the kick. Come on. But yeah, Mike McCarthy just does not like field goals, does not like kickers. And another stat from the Chaotically Intolerant Stat Department. Do you know what the Cowboys' playoff record since they won the Super Bowl is?
Well, I can count, I think, on one hand their playoff wins. I think when they beat the Lions in 2014, that was their first one, and then they beat Seattle in 2018, and then they finally won a road playoff game when they beat Tampa. So I think I covered it. I think they have three postseason wins, maybe
They have
four.
five.
They have
They have
five.
five since then. I think there were two a little earlier, like kind of after the Super Bowl win. They're
Yeah.
5-13 since that Super Bowl win. The Texans franchise playoff record, which started in 2002, they're 5-7. They have 5 wins as well.
And
Zero conference championship appearances from either team.
from either team, either of the Texas teams. And remember,
Dallas had,
Houston's first ever game. I remember watching it Sunday Night Football, ESPN Sunday Night Football beat the Cowboys 19-10.
of
Uh,
course.
was that like the beginning of the end for Dallas or something? I don't know. I mean, they both teams ended up having a bad year. Yeah, I figured I was probably forgetting a few Cowboys playoff wins, but they all feel meaningless because they've never come in the division round in this
Yeah.
era. They beat Brady in his last game. They beat Seattle, Detroit. Right. I forgot they blew out the Eagles in 2009, and they beat Minnesota in 96. I wouldn't have remembered that. But yeah, it is humorous. It's fun to see. It's kind of like the Jets.
And an iPhone has never sent a message saying that the Dallas Cowboys have won a divisional round game, or the Houston Texans. Honestly,
Right.
they've never sent a text message about about a Texas team appearing in a conference title game, which is just funny because Texas always talks about being the head of football, and you would think professional football of all things they would be number one in, but no, not at all. But that is week 11. It was a fun week. It was a crazy week. I think we missed a stat on Mahomes and the Chiefs. They finally gave up 30 points. They hadn't given up 30 points for like a year or something like that. Am I right about that?
Say that again. That the Chiefs,
The Chiefs finally gave up 30
they
points.
finally
They
gave up
haven't
28 points. Yeah.
28 points. How long has it been?
Super Bowl 57 against the Eagles.
Jeez, that's
And,
insane.
and a few, yeah, early
That's a
December
run.
2022 for the regular season. So
Yeah, that's a run. Let's go to week 12. We're going to pick week 12, and then we'll get out of here. We're at about an hour. Starting on Thursday, Steelers Browns. I think this might be a perfect opportunity for a Mike Tomlin collapse in this game.
I don't think it's going to be a collapse. I think the Steelers keep rolling.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Steelers too, but I see the signs of like, okay, they're 8-2, they're feeling good, they're 4-point home or road favorites right now. I could definitely see them lose this one here. Vikings, Bears, Minnesota, 3.5-point favorites in Chicago.
I like the Bears. I think something about 3-game homestand going winless, 3-game road trip going undefeated, not going to happen. I actually like the Bears to win outright. Call me crazy.
I'm gonna go roll with the Vikings because it's a safe pick, but I don't blame you. I think this is a lot closer than people are gonna make it out to be. Lions, Colts in Indianapolis. Detroit opens as a 7.5-point favorite.
Trap game written all over it for the points. I like Indy.
It's going to be close. The Colts play close games. I would take the points too. But again, tradition stands. I will pick the Lions. Um, Patriots, Dolphins in Miami. They are 8-point favorites right now.
Um, feels like a lot. I don't know. I could see them blowing the Dolphins out, but I don't know. I just don't like laying that many points with the Dolphins. I would take New England at least cover.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll roll with the Dolphins too. I think it's, but not 8 points. 8 points is too much. Um, Tampa and the Giants in New York. Tampa's giving 6.
Um, I I want to believe in Tommy Cutlets, but I got to go Tampa.
I can't believe the Giants are gonna like do that Tommy Cutlets thing. I would have loved. I mean, I understand there's financials involved in it. I would have loved to see Drew Lock trot out for the Giants. That feels like it makes sense. But the Tommy Cutlets thing is just going to be so annoying. He throws one touchdown, and you're just going to you're going to see all this stupid Italian stuff. Um, Cowboys, Commanders, Washington, 10-point favorites in Washington against Cowboys. When was the last time the Dallas Cowboys were 10-point underdogs?
Well, at least against the Commanders. I don't
Oh, the
know.
Commanders, I don't even know. Yeah.
I I don't know. I keep picking Dallas to at least like cover the spread, but I got to take the Commanders at least to win. I think it'll be close with the spread, but I'm still going to take Washington.
Mini buy, coming off 2 losses now. I think I would take I would tease at least Washington -10. Like I would
Yes.
entertain it
Yeah,
at least.
good one to throw in a teaser.
Yeah. Chiefs Panthers. Kansas City sitting at 11-point favorites in Carolina. Perfect trap spot. Perfect spot for the Panthers here.
You know what I'd say is a good bet in this game? Take the Panthers first half. Because I think this could be a slow start for the Chiefs to kind of gear up before they put this game away. I feel like that would be my pick. I do think Carolina will probably cover the points overall, but I feel like that would be the way I would play that game.
Okay. Yeah, at least I think Panthers to cover that 11-point spread. I don't think the Chiefs' offense just
Yeah,
isn't
they just don't.
explosive. They
Right,
don't score
right.
points.
Haven't proven that yet.
Yeah. Titans, Texans, Houston, 8-point home favorites. This one feels like a layup for Houston, I think.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Division games in Houston. Just something I don't trust about this Houston team. I just don't know that they show enough juice. I actually like the Titans to cover. I don't know why. We keep forgetting how good the Titans defense has actually been this year. I mean, statistically speaking, they've been what they are. I think they're the best defense in football, right? No, they're now second in terms of yardage. I got to look at points. Then I know they're not the leading defense in points, but they are in what top 10? I think I gotta look. Maybe not. No, they're actually lower towards the bottom. But crazy in terms of yardage. They actually have the second best yardage defense. So if Houston doesn't take advantage of its opportunities, this could actually be a close game.
The series, when Tennessee goes to Houston, is tied 11-11 right now. It's
Yeah,
all knotted up.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I would. The Texans haven't given me a reason to trust them to lay, 8.5 points or whatever. Not yet.
Yeah, eight is a lot. 8 is a lot. I would say Tennessee +8 is probably your bet.
Maybe you throw
Broncos,
that teaser with Dallas. Yeah.
yeah. Broncos Raiders in Vegas. Is this a good spot for the Raiders here? Denver coming off a thrashing of Atlanta. They're not exactly a great football team. Um, I think this could be a really good Raider spot.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, uh, I don't know. I just feel like Denver's been playing so well.
It's
I
the
don't.
perfect trap spot. Sean Payton wants
Yeah,
you to believe.
yeah. I don't know why I actually like Denver, but you could be right. I don't know.
I feel like I would like to see. I don't know if I would be taking the Raiders. I got to think about my upset of the week because that one might be it. I'm not sure. Um, Carolina feels like too much. I mean, it is a big upset. It's a long shot upset, but you know, uh, yeah. 49ers, Packers, and Green Bay. Big one. Aaron Rodgers isn't there though, so maybe
Yeah, gut punch for the Niners last week. I think this is a chance for the Packers to have a good game at home. Their last home game was that Lions loss, right? That kind of ugly,
yes.
outclassing against the Lions. Squeaked by Houston prior to that. I like the Packers here. I do.
Let's see. Yeah, last home game was the Lions. I really like the Packers. I think this is one, shockingly, it's the 49ers, but this is one they should win if they're a serious team. If
Yeah,
they are a serious contender, they should win this game convincingly.
yeah.
Green Bay -2.5. I love that. I'll take them -2.5 any day against this 49ers team. Cardinals Seahawks.
Mm.
Seattle is -1 right now.
Really like Seattle in this spot. They've got some momentum going now. They look like a momentum type team, as evidenced by that 3-0 start. They've yet to win a home game in the division. They've lost to the Niners and the Rams. It feels like Arizona could come out flat off a bye. I don't know. I actually really like Seattle for some reason in this one.
Battle for the West. Something that nobody wants to win. Maybe they'll tie.
Yeah.
This one would be. This is like perfectly NFC West if they tie in this game. That would be a perfect NFC West thing to do.
Well, it'd be perfect if Seattle won, because then those teams would be tied for it. Doesn't feel like Arizona deserves to be 7-4 and in like firm possession of the division,
Yeah,
which they could be if they win and San Francisco also loses. I guess also the Rams would have to lose, but I don't know. It's like, does Arizona feel like a team that should have a stranglehold on the NFC West around Thanksgiving? I don't know. Just can't see
I
it.
don't think so. The -1 at home kind of scares me too,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
usually you're getting three, you're giving three. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals, man. I'm gonna pick the Cardinals.
All
I
right.
like this spot. That one like seems a little makes me nervous. Eagles, Rams, Philly -3 in SoFi, the Apple Store. We're back
Mm.
there again. Got to watch two straight primetime games at SoFi. It's disgusting. Um, actually, three straight because the Chargers are
Chargers.
going to be there on Monday night as well. Um, so
Yeah,
not
3
three
out of the
straight.
last 4 primetime games. Well, I guess Thursday night also, but yeah, more than half of the recent primetime games will have been in that sort. It's going to be a Rams road game. Philly is going to take over
Yeah.
that stadium, but I think this is a good spot for the Rams. I think this could be a letdown spot for Philadelphia. Um, I don't know. The Rams, they're weird. Like some weeks they look great, some weeks they look really bad. I don't know. I don't know why this feels ripe for a nice underdog win.
Yeah, is Philly going to win 7 in a row? This Eagles team with Nick Sirianni at the helm,
Just one in
are
prime
they
time. Yeah, I don't know.
man, this is a tough one because yeah, Philly, they're given three. I'm gonna roll with Philly. I think Philly can do it. I think they'll probably cover the spread, but not by much, like a 4 point game. I don't think LA +3 is a bad bet whatsoever.
Right.
And then Monday night, Ravens Chargers at SoFi. Baltimore is 3 point favorites right now. I think this is also the biggest bye week. I'm seeing the bye week teams. We got Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Saints, Jets, and Jaguars on the bye. I wish the Jaguars would have fired Doug Peterson so they could use this whole bye to prepare the next coach.
Every week's
But
gonna be
Ravens,
bye for them.
Chargers,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, I, God, I mean, I was, like nervous picking the Ravens, but I think this is a good bounce back spot for them. I also think that me picking the Ravens is more about my mistrust of the Chargers continuing to win than it is about the Ravens. Ravens won was it last year or was it the year before? I think they won their last year. It was like 20-10, kind of an ugly win where they just kind of figured it out. And then Zay Flowers, he scored the touchdown, but he wasn't supposed to. They could have just knelt down. They would have won 13-10. I think I had a bet on that game. I think I had the Chargers with the points or something, betting against my own team. But yeah, this will be a tough test for because look, they played a Pittsburgh defense that they couldn't do a whole lot, at least in terms of points against, and now they've got another big test. I mean, this is kind of like a big test for both teams. You don't really say that even in a big game. This feels like a big test for both teams. I I don't know. It's the Ravens defense actually that played pretty well last week, but played poorly the week before. They it seems like when one's going well, the other's not. I'd love to see a game where they could, they have these blowout wins, but even in those, sometimes it's because the offense is just forcing the other team's offense to score every time they have the ball. I like the Ravens, not by a whole heck of a lot, but probably just enough to get the 3 points. And it'll be a lot of purple in that stadium also. Once the Eagles fans leave, well, the Ravens fans will come in. The flock will descend on the Apple Store, and yeah,
The flock.
flock.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with the Ravens here. I mean, the Chargers, like, are they going to be 8-3? Is this Chargers team really 8-3? Come on,
No.
let's. It's the Chargers. Like, we can't. I don't care who it is. It's the Chargers. I don't care if it's fucking Tom Landry at the helm of the Chargers. They're still gonna be 7-4 versus 8-3.
I wonder if the brothers are talking at all this week ahead of the game. Probably no football can be spoken of. You'll see a lot of highlights of Super Bowl 47, obviously, good memories, but they're feeling like they're starting to fade personally among Ravens fans because it's been a dozen years. But it should be a fun game.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is you know what I don't want to wrap it up there yet. We got one more major sporting event. We can't leave this off. The Tyson and Paul fight. Sad, just a sad state of that boxing is in right now. I think that was watching Mike Tyson walk out there into the ring, and he just looks old. You're like, I can't believe this is happening. I felt like I was sitting in a movie, like some movie, Rocky Balboa, the one where they made it in the mid 2000s. Rocky fights some big up and coming fighter. It kind of felt like that, except it was a lot more sad because Tyson just lost and couldn't move. And Jake Paul, fight a fighter, man. Fight someone that's in his prime, that's a real skilled boxer. And I think Canelo offered a challenge, and he never said yes or no to it. Paul was just like, "Oh, I run this sport now." Okay, buddy. Okay.
It was just, it looked like elder abuse. I don't know. He was just he was taking it easy on him. It was sad. There were a lot of people that thought Tyson could win. The betting line was only like 230.
Well, there was a couple times Tyson had him against the ropes, and he just kind of let up. Like he was throwing punches. Like there was one specific time, because my stream, of course, was cutting in and out, so I didn't get to see about half of it. But he was like throwing some punches, and it looked like he was ready to like really lay some haymakers, and he just stopped. He held back, and the biting in the glove was weird. I think a lot of those guys, like those real, I mean, listen, Tyson in the ring was a psycho. He was a crazy person, and he's able to hit a switch to turn that on, and he's talked about it. And I think like he probably hit the switch, but he wasn't allowed. Maybe he wasn't allowed to do anything. Maybe it was rigged. I don't know. But the way like Logan Paul talked to him at the end, after just, I was like, God, these guys are such pricks. They really are.
Yeah, I don't know. I stayed up late to watch it. I don't know that I needed to. The women's fight was really good.
That was a great one. Oh my God.
Really good fight. And one other sports tidbit just from Boston. Bruins fired their coach. It's a couple years removed from the historic season. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, I think after it's the playoffs. At the end of the day, when you're in Boston, you're playing in Boston, the playoffs are all that matter, especially for a team like the Bruins, who have, at least in the last 20 years, have let down more than you have one Stanley Cup win. Look at the history. They've been there, and they've been a great team every year, and they haven't been able to get it done. It was kind of like the Celtics for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't gotten out of it, and they need. And again, I'm a casual hockey fan, so I'm talking like I know stuff. I don't know anything.
Yeah, and you can thank the Panthers. They have been the culprit the last couple of years.
Yeah. They played a little bit of a close one against the Jets last night. Panthers and Jets is a good one in hockey, not a good one in the NFL. It's just I love when they shared names sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it was the Jets had started 15-1 and then inevitably fell flat against the two Florida teams. I thought last night that was a big game for the Jets to kind of respond. And now they're 16-3, and if you look at the betting odds, they're still like the sixth favorite to win the West, which is probably fine with them because you know why put all the pressure on yourselves?
Yeah, yeah. But thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Should get Max on soon. I
We,
gotta. I'll have you reach out
we
to him.
should, yeah. I wanted to
Um,
throw in too. We forgot Boston last night. Big game for the Celtics. They ended the Cavs' undefeated season. Kind of
oh
Chiefs
yeah,
Bills esque, like here's your undefeated team, but are you really that good? And Celtics schooled them a little bit. Final score was closer than the game actually was.
yeah. And then I guess a little college football. Boise State is in the bye right now for college football. That's crazy.
I just love their field. That's all I know about Boise State. Love that blue field.
Genty as well. Alshon Genty. I don't know if you've seen him. Great running back. Stands in the backfield like Mike Myers. Just stands straight up in the backfield. It's pretty hilarious to look at on tape. He does not give a shit. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana as well. Number 5. Um, they're looking to be maybe the next big program. We'll see. Again, we'll wrap it up there. There we go. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.